Here's a short video to work through these practice passages for using the standards of academic writing, which are covered in the notes. If you're in class, we will have gone over these in class. If you're an online student, this will replace that. Most of you can figure this out all on your own. You're smart enough for that, but in case you get stuck or you're hung up on it and these passages appear on the quiz, this will give you something you can refer back to. So what we have here is rhetorical context, right here, a specific scenario. And then we have the question, and this came from a Psych 101 professor about 20 years ago on Scottsdale's campus. I asked him to give me some written essay exam questions and a question, and this is the one I chose to use. So these are real student responses. So we have 3 student responses here, and we're going to rate them or evaluate them or assess them using the 5 standards. There's a scale at the end where we can document the score for each of them, and you should, at least in your mind, be able to ready to justify why you gave them that score. So let's look at the scenario. So on the test that they were given, it was multiple choice, but here's basically the scenario I got from the teacher. Below is one of 3 essay exam questions students were asked to respond to in a Psych 101 class, Introduction to Psychology. Students had approximately 10 minutes for 3 questions, as they also had 50 multiple choice questions to answers. And the reason I put this in here for you, so you would know why some of these responses are a little wonky, it's because the student was probably running out of time and was writing quickly. Because in-class writing assignments are of lesser quality in terms of clarity and correctness. It's just the way it goes. So that's why we're going to see that. Okay, so here's the question. There was 3 questions, but I chose this question and then I chose 3 students' responses to this question. The question is, using Maslow's hierarchy of human needs model, discuss the degree of deficiency of needs in one of the scenarios below. Based on those deficiencies, what sort of behaviors might the individual display? And then the students could choose to write about a single working mother, a homeless man living on the streets, a full-time college student, or a CEO of a large corporation. Now, many of you may not have had Psych 101 yet, or you're unfamiliar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's basically, it starts at the bottom with physiological needs, and then goes to safety needs, and then goes to ego needs, or no, I'm sorry, social needs, social belonging, love needs, ego needs, and self-actualization. So that was the hierarchy they had to discuss. So here's one excerpt. This is from a student whose name was not Johnny B. Good. That's an alias I gave him. So the student writes, college can be a lot of fun, and being a young guy at college with a lot of pretty women can be even more fun. A full-time college student has most of his needs met, like the physical needs such as food, water, shelter, clothing, and if he is lucky, sex. The safety needs are also usually met. For example, if he lives on campus, there is a building code for the dorm or frat house, and campus security patrols the area. However, social needs are at risk for the college student. It's hard to maintain connections with family if one lives on campus or out of state. Plus, unless he has a close friend or a steady girlfriend, he won't always have someone he can talk to openly, and therefore making the stresses of the college life more difficult to deal with. He is then probably most motivated to fit in with a group of people like a fraternity. He'll be motivated to be accepted by attractive females in his classes. That motivation explains a lot about why college guys act like they do, like partying too much and buying the right brand of clothing. Depending on his acceptance, he might or might not be deficient in ego needs. If he's cool, he'll probably think highly of himself, but then he might risk losing friends if he is too stuck on himself. I don't think any college student could ever become self-actualized. They're too busy with school, study, and social life to even attempt it. So in terms of accuracy, does he answer the question? Yes, he does. He goes all the way from physiological needs to self-actualization. In terms of clarity, there's a couple little weird expressions, but there's nothing particularly glaring in terms of misspelling or mispunctuation or anything like that, or poor usage. In terms of depth, he provides depth for each of his examples of each of the steps in the hierarchy. In terms of precision, he doesn't misrepresent any of the of the steps. He does, however, violate style and delivery because he relies on informal language. So, for example, he uses contractions on a number of cases, which lowers the formality. And he uses slang. So he says things like, if he is cool, meaning, if he is confident, would be the more formal way of saying it. And stuck on himself is a slang expression. He also uses the word guy, yeah, guys, college guys, right? So that's pretty poor. So in terms of the scale, we would give him exceeds, 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 does not meet expectations. Style and delivery is really off. Everything else was pretty good, particularly for an in-class written response where, add a little space here, where, he was writing under pressure. Now, this is not so much the case for I'm a student, not her real name. So she writes, homeless people have the most deficiencies in human needs. A homeless, notice the misspelled word, person would need everything at the lowest level. They would need food and shelter mostly. They would need water probably too. There's a run on and a comma missing. So we've already are at 3 errors in terms of correctness. Living on the streets is dangerous. They wouldn't, there's a contraction, have any safely. There's another misspelling. They would need a safe place to sleep at night. By the way, this was handwritten and I typed it just as it was handwritten. Like along the freeway underpass. That's a sentence fragment. You can find protection from the rain and sun there. So she's relied on second person you. That's a style delivery. Unless they hung out with other homeless people, there's another fragment. Probably they are lonely and most people look down on them, so they don't have many friends. There's a contraction. A homeless man would be motivated to find food and shelter and to get as much handouts as he could in a day. And to get as many. So that's a usage error. They motivate to find other homeless people too. That is incoherent. Most homeless people are mentally defective. That's kind of a weird statement. They wouldn't know if they had self-esteem either. So we have a contraction, spelling error because it's missing the hyphen. Some are drug addicts and sex offenders. That's a weird statement too. Thus be motivated for drugs and sex too. Incomplete sentence and lack of a comma. Let's talk about accuracy. Does she cover the physiological needs? Well, she says lowest level, food and shelter. Yeah, she names that. Dangerous, that's safety. Let's see. They wouldn't have any friends, that's social. And let's see. Yeah, self-esteem, that's ego, but she is missing self-actualization. So she hasn't covered all the steps, and in fact, she hasn't even named all the steps. She hasn't named them. She's referenced them indirectly, so I would say missing one step, not naming the other, that's at least 2 errors in accuracy. You saw many errors with spelling, punctuation, sentence structure. There's at least 3 errors for clarity. In terms of depth, because she failed to name the steps, I'm going to count that as one big depth error. Precision, I think these statements, most homeless people are mentally defective and some are drug addicts and sex offenders. I don't think that's precise. I don't think that that's what the answer is calling for. So at least 2 on precision. And style, she has you and contraction. So if we came down here to her, we're going to go does not meet, does not meet, meets, meets, does not meet. So she only had 2 categories with depth and precision. Where I'm being generous if I were her teacher. Otherwise, I would say she doesn't really meet the assignment very well at all. I mean, you would have to be a super sweet teacher to go, here's some points for that. Now let's compare hers to Rusty, who also wrote on a homeless person as well. So Rusty wrote, according to Maslow's hierarchy of human needs model. By the way, notice it's nice to reference what you're responding to, even in a in-class essay response. A homeless man would most likely be deficient in each category. In terms of physiological needs, so notice he names it, this man would have a hard time getting enough food and water. He would lack the proper clothing for extreme hot or cold weather. He would not get enough sleep either. This ties into his lack of safety needs being met as well. He would not have a safe place to sleep. He would be subject to physical attacks from troublesome teenagers who often taunt him. Now, I want to point out that he's using better language than, let's say, Johnny did. Troublesome teenagers, we would mostly say jerky teenagers or asshole teenagers or, whatever, but he's using a more formal, semi-formal language. He would be subjected to the elements and all types of environmental hazards. Police and firemen are probably not as invested in saving or helping a homeless man as they would for a typical suburban resident. And I take a little, you know, I'm not sure about that statement. Sadly, a homeless man lacks family and friends. He might have a companion, a stray dog, or another homeless person, but in reality does not belong to a group or community. Therefore, and look at that, that's always impressive to a teacher when you know how to use the conjunctive adverb and the semicolon. Therefore, he would be deficient in social needs. In terms of esteem needs, it is difficult to suggest that a homeless man would have any such needs met. How would he have self-respect or the respect of others given his condition? Finally, it is unlikely that a homeless person would achieve self-actualization. There would be no opportunities for a homeless person to grow or find beauty in his everyday life. Because of these deficiencies, a homeless man's behavior is a result of his motivation to meet his physiological and safety needs first, and really it comes down to meeting his physical needs first. That is why homeless men ask for money and spare change. They need something to eat and drink before they can consider where they might sleep that night or whom, notice even use the correct pronoun, referent pronoun, they might befriend. So I would say really the only thing as a teacher I would have issue with this is that one statement about police and firemen. I would say I'm not so sure that that's a precise statement. Otherwise, I would say Rusty exceeds expectation, exceeds to meets, and exceeds. So you can see here how to apply those 5 standards to your own writing. You're going to always want to make sure you refer back to these notes when you review your own writing later in the semester.